Are you really struggling to find motivation? And are you looking for tips to help? If so, you're in the right place. Stick around. I've been talking to a lot of mates who've been struggling for motivation to study during this time, and I completely empathise. So I thought I'd make a video with my 11 top tips to help us be productive during this time. Hi, I'm just going to jump in and just say I was going through the editing process and realised actually it'd be really handy to have some timestamps, so I'm going to stick those in the description below, so feel free to check those out. Anyway, back to the video. Number 1. Don't put pressure on yourself. For most of us, this extra time indoors isn't the ideal way to make progress in those big assignments or projects. It's challenging and it's hard, so go easy on yourself if you're finding it more of a struggle to make headway than normal. But stay motivated, because remember there are lots of people who are in the same boat as you. Number 2, remember what you like about your subject. Now this might sound like a bit of a weird one. You might think, well actually there's nothing I like about my subject. I absolutely hate it. I loathe it. But actually, if you think about it, maybe there's a module or a particular subject, say if you're in high school, that you actually don't mind, or maybe you just like better than the rest of them. So maybe when you're working, just start with that one. And you might find actually that when you've been trying to work, you've found yourself gravitating more to that subject or that topic area. And you might feel bad, you might think, oh, I'm missing out on this whole other subject area, I'm leaving the ones that I find hard. Because often it's the hard ones that we enjoy the least. But if you're really struggling for motivation, it's better that you spend more time on a subject that you enjoy and neglect the others that you find harder or less enjoyable than to do no work at all. Take your victories where you find them. Say if you're doing a big dissertation, or for me, doing my medical studies, there are topics within that I'm more naturally drawn to. So I might think, oh well, this part of anatomy and physiology, or this particular drug or medication is really interesting to me. So I'm going to take time to read about that. That might be on a day when I'm particularly struggling for motivation. Go wild reading about that. It's okay to get lost in your subject at this time if it gets you to do work in the end. Number 3. An invaluable tool is breaking your day up into smaller chunks. It's so easy for the days to get away from us. You know, I found myself thinking, wait, is today Wednesday? Is it Friday? I can't quite remember. It might sound really simple, but actually having some sort of discipline, not going to bed stupidly late and not getting up really late either, can really help you to make the most out of your days. Now, I'm a bit of a hypocrite when it comes to this, because I really struggle with getting to bed on time and waking up early. But maybe in the future, if it's something you guys are interested in, I could do a video on things that I found really helpful to help me to get to bed on time and to actually get up in the mornings. But also try and lean into your natural rhythms. Maybe, you know, around 3-4 o'clock your mind starts to wander. So maybe you could preempt that and say, okay, I'll video call you at this time, spend time with your family or something like that during that time, so you're being productive with time that you would otherwise have just wasted. Rest can be productive as well, seeing rest as something useful. It is a tool, it's something that we need. If you use your rest well, it'll maximise how much work you're able to do as well. Happy days. Number 4. Make sure the people that you're living with know that you're studying. Now, this is an interesting one because maybe it's more useful or more necessary if you're living with your family at the moment than if you're living with just random flatmates or housemates. But equally, it could be useful there as well. Say you've gone home from uni now and you're studying at home, and maybe you have other siblings who might come into your room and just sit on your bed and start chatting. Obviously, it's great to see them, it's great to have a chat, but sometimes it's not the most helpful. So what can you do? So a tip would be, if you're gonna go study, tell the people in your house, I'm about to go study for the next few hours. It would be really helpful if you didn't disturb me. Hopefully that'll be okay and that will work well for you. I can imagine if we did this in our flat, you would just be asking for it really. Penny! Penny! Also, you might have siblings or other housemates or flatmates who are studying also for exams. Maybe saying to them, hey, I'm going to be studying, will help motivate them to study. And maybe you guys could make a social thing of it. You take your breaks together or maybe study in the same space, provided that you guys don't distract each other. Number 5. Schedule in a tutorial. Obviously, if you know that your tutor or one of your teachers is going to be free, you could ask them in advance, but let's face it, that's probably going to be on the rarer side, but this doesn't mean that you can't do a tutorial. You could do this in a group of course mates or people who are doing the same subject at you if you're in high school. You could say meet up every day for an hour or two, because I mean, what else are you actually going to be doing? Divide your subject or module into topics. Each of you takes it in turn to lead a session. You might do 10, 20, 30-minute sessions where you've prepared information and you're sharing it. This is a really effective way to learn for many reasons. One being, there's a lot of evidence to say that when you have to teach something and answer questions on the spot, you're more likely to retain that information. Thirdly, even if you didn't have the motivation to work before, maybe the fact that you know that your peers are waiting on you to have prepared some content for you to share with them beforehand, you're more likely to do work so you don't let them down. In terms of software to use, you guys will probably be familiar with a load of virtual platforms, so Skype, Google Hangout. So all of those are really good. In terms of the tutorial size, the smaller the better, because it can be a bit glitchy if there are lots of people speaking, and it can switch from one to the other, so it doesn't really feel so much like a conversation. But if you have a smaller group of you, then it might flow a bit better and you might be able to get more out of it. Also, if it's smaller, you'll have to present more sessions, so that means that you're actually having to prepare more topics and therefore hopefully learn more. Maybe try and give that one a go. Number 6, find and clean your study space. So you might have a desk in your room, and that's great. Try and declutter it, and it sounds really obvious, but just try and make your workspace as comfortable and conducive to learning as possible. You might have an inspirational succulent called Callum, but I know for some people when they're studying at home, they don't have a desk in their room and they would normally use the kitchen table or maybe even the sofa to study, and that's fine. Like, as long as it's quiet and you feel that you can work there, then that's great. But I think we're all really good at kidding ourselves and thinking, yeah, I can totally work here. I feel like I can work on the sofa, but actually I'm more likely to just watch the TV, if I'm being honest with myself. So it's just being real and just saying, okay, is where I'm studying now actually allowing me to study? One tip that could be really useful is if you're sharing a study space with other family members or just other people, actually having a box that you can keep all your stuff in, your books, your notes, your pens, all of that. Just have a box where you can put it in, so that once you finish studying you can pack it all away and put it in the corner of the room or something like that. So that space, that kitchen table or whatever, can then be used for other stuff, and then that way you don't lose anything. You know where all your stuff is, and if you need to move and study somewhere else, it's really convenient. Number 7, tune out distractions. It might be difficult in the place where you are now to find somewhere quiet. Maybe you have younger siblings running around, so maybe now is the perfect time to find the music that can help you study. So some people find lo-fi really helpful, classical music, synth waves, any of that sort of stuff, the instrumental things that can not be distracting but help you tune out the world around and just help focus your mind on the work that you've got in front of you. Experiment with different genres, but the caveat is try not to get too sidetracked. So number 8, have time to focus. My studying has been revolutionized by this website called mytomatoes.com. This website utilizes this technique called the Pomodoro technique. I'm probably butchering that word because it's Italian and I suck at saying Italian stuff. But essentially it's this concept that you work for 25 minutes and then have a 5-minute break. You start the timer and then start your work, and it will count you down to 25 minutes. Timer goes off, and then it gives you this little box and you type in what you've been doing during that time, and then you click enter, and then the 5-minute timer begins for the break. You can set it to a longer timer, so maybe you want a 10-minute break. That portion, so maybe that 30 minutes, 25 minutes and 5-minute break, counts as a tomato, and so your aim is to collect your tomatoes as you're going through the day, and it keeps a record of your progress by the little sentences that you write. Now, it might sound really lame or really childlike, but it's just that simple reward system, isn't it? Like, you get a tomato for the work that you do, and it's that little dopamine hit. It has helped me to study, so yeah, maybe it's something that you guys can try. Also, another point that comes with this is to try and maintain the boundary between when you're studying and when you're not. I know how easy it can be to intermingle work and rest. So you might be working for what feels like an age, and then you might look at the time and think, oh my gosh, I've only been working for 10 minutes, like how is that even possible? It feels like forever. I think, oh, I'll just go check on my phone, and you'll do that. Another 5 minutes will pass and you think, oh, might as well do some work, and then this random cat video pops into your head and you're like, might as well. And then before you know it, you know, 40 minutes have gone and you've been doing an all right amount of work, but you've not really been focused on it. It's better to spend 20 minutes intensely working and then 5 minutes having a rest than having 40 minutes of moderate, like, you're just sort of plodding through your work and you're not really focused on it at all. Also, if studying just isn't working for you, you've been staring at the computer for what feels again like a really long time, but your headspace just isn't right, make a list of the jobs that you have to do that isn't actually academic work, but it might be things like washing the dishes, hanging the clothes out to dry, tidying your room, you know, all those sorts of jobs, and then get up and do them. Stick on some tunes or something and yeah, go crazy. And I find that for me, just getting up and getting out of that space that I'm studying in can just help my mind, because I know that I'm doing something productive and useful, but it's not requiring me to study. So then I can cross those things off the list as I'm going along. Then I can come back to my work and think, oh, I've got a whole load of completed tasks behind me. I know that I've already done something useful and productive today. And then maybe you might feel more positive about doing some work. It's definitely helped me when I've been finding it difficult. Number 9, adjust your work mentality. So this maybe should have been first, I don't know, because it's such a key one, and I feel like there are 2 extremes that you can have that are negative. One is this mindset that you're constantly beating yourself up, like I'm not doing enough work, I'm falling behind, all this sort of stuff. And the problem with that is that, yeah, sure, you might actually do some work, but it probably won't be enjoyable. It'll feel like a chore. You'll always feel inadequate, and you'll constantly see what you're lacking rather than what you've accomplished. So that's not great. And the second extreme is you might look at the work that you have and just feel like it's really overwhelming, or that it's really pointless, or maybe it's a bit of both, and you think, okay, actually stuff it, it's actually too hard, it's too difficult, and I give up. And then just go and binge watch your TV show that you've wanted to watch, or some movies or something. And the problem with that is that, yeah, sure, it's like a temporary escape from the woes of work, but you then do have to come back to reality, and the work is still there, right? The work is still there for you to come back to, but now the problem is that you have less time to do it. For me, I know that I see both in me, and it can be like a vicious cycle. I can beat myself up for binging, and it's just like, you know, a vicious cycle, and I think it's something that loads of people struggle with. I found rewarding myself for work done the thing that works best. Number 10, reward yourself. Now, this cannot be overstated. So for instance, using the example of the Pomodoro technique, for my 5 minutes, for instance, that I have as a break, I might watch my favourite YouTuber or a TV show or even a movie. And you might think that's really weird. Why would you watch a TV show or a movie in 5-minute chunks? But I can say it's been helpful for me. Even just a few months ago, I had a big exam coming up, but I was also in the middle of watching the Star Wars episodes, and I really wanted to continue watching them, but I also had to revise, so I would revise and then watch 5 minutes. It was like 25 minutes Luke, 25 minutes Padme. It was just sweet.
Another happy landing.
Another thing is, maybe instead of rewarding yourself by watching things, it could be an idea to use those 5 minutes to start reading a novel or continue one that you've been enjoying, or to just pop your head outside, to physically get out of that space that you've been studying, similar to just doing the household chores, but this time it's probably a bit more fun. Really helps bring you back refreshed to do more work. Number 11, I don't know. You set realistic goals. I think often for me, I can overestimate the amount that I can do in a day, or underestimate the amount of time a given topic will take. So just scoping out the topic beforehand, doing some initial prep to know what you're getting yourself in for, can be really useful. I think one of the examples that might be the most useful for this particular situation of corona and pandemic vibes is when I had to sit this exam called the GAMSAT. Now, the GAMSAT, for those of you who don't know what that is this awful 8-hour-ish exam which covers a whole load of stuff. In amongst the things that I needed to revise for the GAMSAT was A-level physics, and I hadn't done physics past GCSE, so I needed to teach myself all of that, as well as lots of other different areas. So I soon realised that actually saying to myself, okay, I'm going to study 2 or 3 topics a day, wasn't very helpful, because say one topic in the book might be 2 or 3 pages, but another topic in the book could be 16, 17, 18 pages. So the amount of work that it's going to take to cover those 2 topics is going to be different, right? You might find it a bit nerdy at first, or a bit like OTT, but just hear me out. I made an Excel file with a list of all the topics that I knew that I was going to need to know stuff about, and made a list of how many pages each of those topics was in the book. And obviously how many pages a topic isn't necessarily representative of how difficult it is, but I thought gave some arbitrary measure to how much time I would need to put in. And then all the topics that were 10 pages or more I marked in red. All the ones that were between 5 and 10 I coloured in amber, and between 1 to 5 I coloured in green. I then made a timetable for myself, and say I have 60 days until the exam, I'd put in 2 reds, an orange and a green. Makes it sound a bit like a countdown, but yeah, then that meant that each day I was having variation in difficulty level and variation in topics. I included as well for myself rest days, just to allow myself time to catch up and breathe. Also, I found this really helpful because on days when I really just found it difficult to find motivation, I knew that I had a green one in amongst the work that I scheduled for myself that day. So I thought, I'm not feeling like working right now, but let me just start with the green one, because I know it's going to be easier and I have to do it anyway. So I do the green one, and then by the end of that I've gotten myself into the mindset of working, and I get this like weird dopamine hit from having completed one of those titles. I hope this has been helpful. These are just some tips that have helped me through the years as I've been studying. Please comment below of any tips or tricks that you might have that you find really useful when you're studying, or maybe things have been mentioned in this video that you're like, you try it and you think that's pretty good and you'd recommend it. I mentioned a bit in this video about how to study efficiently, but there's another YouTuber who you might have heard of called Ali Abdal, and he does great videos on effectively studying, so I'd recommend checking those out, whether you're at uni, whether you're still in high school. Sending much love to you guys, and I hope you guys stay safe and are doing well. Peace out.